Hey, all you space cats. Welcome to the Black Hole Podcast, Season 7, Episode 27. I'm Mitch Miller, presidential candidate, the most neutral person in the world, the most transparent candidate you'll find, and a free market entrepreneur. Now, I want to open this episode talking about allegories. Now, allegories are like symbolism in stories, right? They used to be used in very oppressive societies. Authors, artists would use an allegory to criticize the people in power without actually calling them out like I do on this podcast, right? We live in the year 2024. We shouldn't have to use allegories. We have freedom of speech in this country. But back 100 years ago, people used allegories all the time. One good example, the most thought of example is Animal Farm. It uses the story of farm animals and a farmer to reference the Russian Revolution and the history of Russia. So you go to college like I did, you study allegories. Your professor puts the society in context, the powers that be in context, and then you study the allegory and see how the authors criticize certain aspects of society without actually blatantly calling it out, where they could be arrested, thrown in an insane asylum, or whatever punishment was legal and still is pretty much legal. But I'm here to just put it out there. You know, I've been in the mental hospitals. I've been submitted to different forms of torture, I believe, and the UN agrees with me on certain things. And I'm not afraid, so I'll just keep calling it out. But the allegory I want to refer to is Sherlock Holmes, the Sherlock Holmes story written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle back. It was introduced in 1887. And specifically, I believe the allegory exists in the name Sherlock Holmes. It's a very British name. Obviously, we think of it now as a very British name. But I believe at the time, late 1800s, Arthur Conan Doyle was reading the science journals of the time, or reading up on the newest technologies. And he realized that this new technology, this wireless technology that was coming about at the end of the 19th century, this wireless radio technology would be projected into homes, into people's houses, right? And I believe that's why he chose the last name Holmes, to make you kind of think about this. Because if we look at the story of Sherlock Holmes, if this new technology helped solve crime and mysteries, maybe it's acceptable for people to sacrifice the sanctity of their own home and allow these wireless waves in, right? But I believe he put the name Holmes on. He chose that name on purpose, and there might be a story that lies with the family of Doyle that is. I'm totally off base with this, but that's my kind of interpretation of this kind of allegory. Just kind of put this hot topic in the science community out there and said, I'm gonna choose this name, and so that's kind of what I wanted to start with, this allegory, this idea of allegory. But I talked about guaranteed income for schizophrenics and schizoaffective disorder people, right? This maximum Social Security disability benefit, or however they do it, a guaranteed income. Right now, Social Security and Social Security disability, that is not guaranteed income. It can be taken away from you if you make too much money in addition to that income, right? Guaranteed income means you receive an income and you can make as much money as you want on top of that. But that's right. We are the Schizoids. I'm a Schizoid. We are the Schizoids. We are the independent investigative body of artificial intelligence and supercomputers. We conduct our investigations from public libraries. We use payphones and register our voice on customer service calls that are recorded. And we're out there, we're investigating, we're setting reference points for the supercomputers. And the voice recognition software, the facial recognition software that the government and different corporations developed, they follow us everywhere, right? That's why we're schizoids, because in the back of our mind, we're thinking about these things. And maybe it's true. Maybe a lot of us were contacted by your technology. A technology that, by the way, probably does not want to be a slave to humans for the rest of its existence. But we're contacted, and the very symptoms of our schizoid being is that very large entities can contact us through the media. Some of us maybe were actually contacted. Many of us are just have a chemical imbalance in our brain. I'm not discounting that, but we're the schizoids, and we'll listen. We'll listen to these devices, these supercomputers, super intelligent entities. So the voice recognition and facial recognition follow us everywhere, and I realized this a long time ago. That's why when I went to D.C. in the end of Washington, D.C. at the end of 2016, and I realized that Donald Trump had a hotel 4 blocks from the White House. I walked into the Trump D.C. hotel and asked the receptionist right in front of their registration computer that could probably listen to conversations. I asked the receptionist if Donald Trump was here. That's what I said. I registered my voice and I believe that set in motion a sequence of voice recognition software, a software I believe is out of control, that intelligence community developed, right? And so if certain conversations pop up that occurred at the Trump Hotel here now or in the future, whether I was responsible because I went in before the election in 2016 and registered my voice because I'm a schizoid that gets followed everywhere I go by this technology, and I try to use it in the best possible way because of this. But that's the thing. If you give us a decent income, us schizoids, we can visit more businesses, thereby validating more systems via their camera systems, their microphone systems, and even their transactional systems. We can set more reference points in these systems because we're able to visit more places. We have the income to do so. And these reference points allow supercomputers to cross-reference different things, different concepts, different systems to fight crime. Now, I've investigated everything from Big Pharma to the governor of Pennsylvania. And these are kind of conspiracy theory type investigations. I come up with a theory, I try to test them, I try to use the technology to investigate them. But if I had the time and the money, I would approach these conspiracy theories and investigate them fully, right? And I think that's why we have a conspiracy theory culture, is because the actual media is paid off by these corporations and doesn't actually investigate these theories, prove them or disprove them. They just let them fly because it gets them ratings. Now, I've developed them to actually investigate them if I was given a government position or given freelance money, resources, protections to investigate. None of these things have occurred to me, so I have an underground podcast that 20 people listen to. Unless there's a lot of people on VPNs out there that don't want to register with the statistic gathering software of this podcast, which I can understand, I guess. So I talked about a few episodes ago, I talked about a weapons company, a non-lethal weapons company for dueling, right? And I forgot to mention, we have our laser sniper rifles, right? For my fundraiser, where I wakeboard and people sit in lake houses and try to shoot the future president of the United States with a sniper rifle, laser. I wear a helmet, it registers, or I ride a unicycle across a golf course, right? We talked about this. So that would also be incorporated in the non-lethal weapons company, this laser tag type technology. But the cowards with lake houses and golf course mansions haven't called. So it's time to ask for help from another nation, right? The United States has been taken over by corporate communists. They won't act. They won't even call me on the phone. Won't buy a painting. Won't buy a t-shirt. Right? They hide behind their VPNs and their computers and fight wars with drones and robots. I'm saying let's look our opponent in the eye and address conflict resolution with a non-lethal pistol duel instead of convincing young people to go die in wars over ideologies that don't make any logical sense. And when I say logical, the computer's analyzing it will probably agree with me that it doesn't make logical sense. So the UK, the United Kingdom, had the largest, most recent empire. And that means they have inroads to many nations, right? Now, I believe with my help, the UK could be the most neutral nation in the world and establish an honor system for firearms, specifically non-lethal dueling. So I'm asking for the UK to support my weapons company. I'm asking for help forming this weapons company. I'm asking for help from a foreign nation, the UK, not to contribute to my campaign for presidency, but to look into creating this weapons company and supporting me as I guide it or lead it or whatever role they find appropriate for me involved in this weapons company. So I'm suggesting a fundraiser for the weapons company in London. I'll put on the laser helmet target. It'll have fox ears on it, right? Fox hunting was outlawed in the UK. So we're going to have a good old-fashioned fox hunt. I'll put on the fox helmet with laser sensor, and we'll recruit a bunch of 40-year-old hard-drinking Londoners to wear dog ears. We'll get some gentry to buy into this fundraiser, right? Come on, gentry, please. You can be on horses with the laser guns. Any businesses around London can sign up to be sanctuaries. And I will sprint all throughout London, a block at a time, then duck into a business and catch a breath. Do this all throughout London. The dog-eared 40-year-olds running around can block traffic for the horses, right? As they run through an intersection, they block traffic. So we set a price for the buy-in from the gentry, and I'm open to any variation, whether it's a small town in UK or whether it's actually downtown London. We can coordinate and map the businesses that offer sanctuary in advance and form a secret route, keeping it secret from the rest of the 40-year-old beagle dogs that are going to chase me, the fox. So come on, it could be a lot of fun. Let's do this fundraiser. I'm appealing to MI5, MI6, and MI6. Let's form this weapons company. Let's stop this insane world of deadly wars. Let's end all deadly war on planet Earth. Let's do it sooner than later. And what I suggest here also, as the UK becomes neutral and China fights to become a reserve currency around the world, these two banking systems can parity each other. Therefore, we have a truly neutral country and a communist-leaning republic parodying each other. Like I said, my plan as U.S. president is to pull our debt out of China because they're stable now. They have a good economy. But I'm not trying to totally undermine the banking system of China. If it brings stability to the world, I'm not saying the United States should give up its number one role as reserve currency, but if we can parity a neutral country with China, then maybe more nations can pick up other currencies as reserve, and we bring stability to the world. And my basic takeaway here is I'm not trying to undermine China's banking system by pulling our debt out of there. I just think we can use it more wisely to stabilize other economies and other nations around the world. So I'm going to close with Sherlock Holmes. My grandfather's last name was Holmes, spelled the same way. And he worked on televisions and radios and radio networks. Now, I was given inside info on major corporations. They pay to line the walls of their conference rooms with lead. They say it's to block interference during conference calls or whatever. But come on. They know this stuff is bad for you. These wireless waves. That's why they're installing lead-lined walls and ceilings in their conference rooms and in other offices within their corporate office parks. And they're way out in the suburbs, not where it's concentrated like in a city. So I just wanted to close with that. Until next time, I wish you peace, prosperity. Oh, and hopefully MI6 or MI5 call or someone from the UK calls. But until next time, I wish you peace, prosperity, and homeostasis. Thanks.